We're rolling.
Rolling. Well, hey, welcome to the pod.
Welcome.
2 cents, Josh and Spence. We're your hosts, Josh and
Spence.
What's up, everybody? Spencer, do we have some massive news? Do we have a
Huge
massive announcement?
Absolutely huge news.
Huge.
Let's check the numbers here. Dustin? All right, he's not going to talk. Oh, according to Dustin, we have 2 new subscribers.
2 new subscribers! Wow!
Which means we are down. Last week we were at 95% listeners were unsubscribed.
Freeloaders.
Yep. Now we're only at 91%. Are you kidding me?
Wow. Plummeting. That number is plummeting. That's
Send
a number
us the check.
Dude. Just gold-plated chairs next episode.
Hey, here we go.
Hey.
We're happy with progress because we're growth-minded.
I'm not a numbers guy, but
last
that's got to be thousands percent. Like, if you look at that as a percentile, I mean, we got to be moving like green arrows.
Could even be millions.
Oh, now he wants to talk.
Dustin now wants to talk numbers. Okay. Well, I think your mic's off. If you want to talk, turn your mic on. Okay. Well,
Bottom line, we track our metrics here. Like, there's a whole behind the scenes thing, and our board of directors is very impressed.
Yep.
Everyone's very, very happy.
Yep.
Everyone's very pleased.
we are.
Q1 has been very good.
We will talk about this soon, but we are measuring in the gain and not in the gap.
100%.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you to the 2 new subscribers. Shout out.
Shout out.
Here we go.
Shout out. All right, bro. So, we're going to talk about another one of so there's quite a few books, but there's a few like kind of go-to books that I have.
Talking about a book pod?
Book pod.
Whoa.
Book pod. Okay. One of those books, it's written by the guy. So, you ever heard of Chicken Soup for the Soul?
Yep.
Like a massive book franchise started in the 90s. Basically what they did is like they took like these really like feel good short stories and put them into a book that made people feel good, which is like Chicken Soup for the Soul. Anyway, so one of the dudes from there, Jack Canfield is his name, wrote a book called The Success Principles, How to Get From Where You Are to Where You Want to Be. And it's a book that I read about once a year. And I don't know, man, there's just something about his writing, something about it that just makes everything seem easier and possible, like more possible. I don't know what it is, you know?
Yeah.
So I like to listen to it about once a year. It talks a lot about like being clear on setting your goals, overcoming your fear, like the power of visualization and what that can do, setting goals for yourself and then acting as if those goals have already been achieved, taking massive goals and chunking them down, like all of these and there's like 64 of these success principles. So what we thought we would do is just give you a little taste of what that might be.
We're going through all 64 of them, people. Buckle up.
Get ready. Might want to listen to this pod at 1.5 times speed. This is you're going to be here a while, okay?
No, we're just kidding.
No, so we took 5 of them, kind of the 5 ones that stood out the most to us, and we thought we'd just kind of chat a little bit about them. And if that may just compel you to want to go out and check out the book for yourself, well then so be it. So
The promo code 2 cents when you buy it.
Yep.
It won't get you anything off. Just put that promo code in.
That'd be sick. I would love someone to reach out to us one time and be like, "Hey, Mary Jaster's been trying to." Mary Jaster keeps typing in this promo code. Like, I don't know what to do. So yeah, one of the first success principles is and he calls it, so take 100% responsibility for your life in general. And so we talk about that a lot. We would refer to that as extreme ownership, which is another book, another pod, or another time for another pod. But
This is a tough one for me.
Me too. Because it's constantly like, you constantly want to be like looking somewhere else. Like, hey, I'm having financial problems. Must be that person's fault, or must be the economy's fault. I don't have enough time to exercise. Well, I got kids, and how am I supposed to, whatever. Well, I never get to, insert your problem,
Right.
right? And then like hold up a mirror, right? And then look at yourself, because that's probably where the answer is. And it's super difficult and really, really enticing to want to find blame elsewhere. But when you do that, if I have a problem and it's your fault, well, then all of a sudden I become a victim and there's nothing that I can do about that, right? And so there's another book called the 10X Principle by Grant Cardone, who's a big internet real estate guy. But he was the example, and this is because like I always refer to myself as like a recovering victim, because I was very much like, well, because I was like really small, so I was like, well, if I was big, I'd do this, and well, if I was this, I'd do this, and just like a constant victim, and then you'd get into this like spiral mode where like everything sucks and whatever. So, anyway, blackout number one on the pod. But when you do, what opened my eyes to that, he gave the example, like if I'm in a car and I get rear-ended, like that's my fault for getting rear-ended. Like I should have left earlier. I should have been in the other lane, which is like an extreme example, but it just kind of gives you that mindset, like, oh yeah, so that's my fault, and then all of a sudden you're not the victim. And then when you're not the victim, not that like being a victim is bad per se, but if I'm a victim, then I'm not in control. And if I'm not in control, well, then somebody else is. And then I'm now at the whim of you or that person or the economy or whatever. So,
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome. Next one, be clear on why you're here. So this is a big one. We call it, your big why is how we often refer to it. But what's your purpose? What gets you out of bed in the morning? What drives you? What motivates you? Whatever it is, like focus on that. Know what it is so that you can continue to move towards it. I think it took me a really long time to figure out what this was for me. How do you have any tips or recommendations on what people can do? Like, obviously, like I think meditating, praying, thinking about it, stuff like that would help figure out what your purpose is. But we kind of touched on it last week too. Like, just decide what it is and then figure out what type of person you need to be to become that.
There's a lot to that. So like we come from real estate. So I always use this example. Like everybody gets into real estate like, oh, I just want to make X. Usually it's $100,000 around here or whatever. Like you hear that all the time. I just want to make $100,000. It's like, well, is that really what you want?
Right.
Or I want to have a 6-pack. Is that really what you want? Like, why? Why do you want that? Like, Why is that important to you?
Digging deeper.
Ultimately, what's that going to do for you? And then to really get to the crux of it, and then from there. But
what he means is like people think they want $100,000 because of the way it'll make you feel.
Right.
Well, what is that feeling actually going to do? Like, what does happiness look like to you? Well, if it's like just consecutive days of not having a bad day, well, then maybe like other things can do that other than money, or figure out what that would actually look like.
Right. And well, they say like a big enough why can overcome any how. Right. So if you know why you want it. So I think it's in this book or another one of his books where he talks about you can drive from Los Angeles to New York in pitch black with your lights on, because you only need to see 200 feet in front of you, right? So you don't need to know, like, I don't know exactly how to, blah, 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 whatever. But if I know, like, I want to be able to give X amount of dollars away, or I want to have this amount of impact, like this strong enough why, then you'll get there. And then like Steve Jobs has a quote. He's like, you have to love what you do. You have to want it bad enough, because it's inevitably going to get hard. And if you don't want it bad enough, then you'll quit, because you're a normal human. And why would you continue to do something that sucks and that's hard if you don't want it bad enough? So really being clear on what your why is. And then that too, like, give yourself some grace, because that can change. Like all of a sudden you think, this is my why. I need to have X, or I need to do Y, or whatever. And then you get to that point, and then sometimes you get there a lot sooner than you thought. And you're like, oh, well, now what? And then really getting clear. And like a kind of a cool exercise that was helpful for me is like starting at your funeral and working your way backwards, right? So it's like, okay, you're dead now. Okay. How many people came to your funeral? why did they come?
What did they say?
What do they have to say about you? And then working your way back from there. And then being clear on why you're here. And then it's like, okay, well, I know I want to be X. Now the question becomes, who do I have to become to be that person?
I think what just happened in my brain when you said that was like, a lot of people think when we're talking about your big why, it's like business related or money related or work related. But when you talk about it like that, like nobody at a funeral is like, oh man, he was a really good real estate agent.
Yeah.
Nobody's like, he was a really good CEO or whatever. He was great working here. Like it's about people, and it's about then your personal life.
Right.
You know? So it's your big why. It doesn't have to be work related. It could be being a great dad or building great relationships or getting closer to God or whatever it is.
Yeah, and that's how our kind of thing, spread joy and empower other people, came to be, right? Because that doesn't really have anything to do with, but then too, it speaks to like, well, when things get hard, it makes you continue to want to do it. So like the real estate market takes a downturn, all of a sudden things are like pretty tough. It's like, okay, well, do you just quit? It's like, no, because I have got a strong enough why, like that's going to happen, and maybe and then that makes you continue to want to go. Yep. Like instead of like, well, I'll just quit. I'll just go back to being an agent, just kind of doing my own thing, whatever. Like, well, no, because that doesn't match the big why, which is spreading joy and empowering other people and creating leaders and doing all that stuff.
What I hear you saying is your work or your business is just kind of the vehicle to get you to your big why. Mm-hmm. Would you agree?
100%.
It's kind of a cool way to think about it.
100%.
I'm so smart.
Wow. Internet broken. Here we go. So another principle on there is ask, ask, ask. So he wrote another book with, now I'm blank. Jack Can't. No, he's Jack. Mark Victor Hansen is the other. So he wrote another book called The Aladdin Factor. So like the genie rub the lamp and you get your wishes. So just being really comfortable asking, because so often we're just afraid to ask because we're afraid that the answer is going to be no. We're afraid we're going to look stupid. Mm-hmm. We're going to be afraid whatever, they're going to think I'm lazy or I'm entitled or I'm whatever. But just ask. And then and that's the cool thing about the book. He just tells all these like real life stories about like there's a story in there about how this lady needs cash, and it's like from the 90s. So she's like, can I just write you a check and then you cash it? Which is super old school. But then the guy's like, well, I can, I just need your photo ID. And she's like, well, I didn't have one. So then I just gave him like a library card that didn't have a photo ID on there. And he just asked and then just like didn't say anything and just kept asking. And I think that I might be mixing that up with like act as if it'll work, but just asking or like, he gives another story about there's somebody being on a plane and the plane's delayed and everybody's pissed or whatever. But then I forget what he did. Like, it just asked for a first class seat. Like someone's in front of him in line being a total butthead to somebody, like the person that has no control over anything, but like being a total jerk. And then he comes up and just asks, and she's like, you know what? I can get you on. He's like, oh, I thought you just told him. He's like, no, I told him I couldn't get him on. I can get you on, But it just kind of tells those cool stories. And again, like there's just something about, I don't know, just like knowing that somebody, like people did these things. And so like knowing it's possible, it just like kind of lowers your shoulders, like, okay. And that's why I love like continuing to read and like continue. Cause like I've been less focused on reading books and more focused on like on being in the Bible, which is also cool. But then I could feel like I need to get back into those because it just puts you in a little bit different mind space. But
when I saw this ask, I love your perspective on it. I didn't think of it that way. The way I thought of it was, you kind of touched on it, but just like, don't be afraid to sound stupid. So, you always hear it all the time. No dumb questions. But even when people say that, it's like, well,
yeah, no dumb questions for you.
And when I say that, like if you're teaching a class, like when I say that, someone pipes their hand up, it's like, oh God, this could be a dumb question.
No, correction, there are dumb questions.
But no, for real, like not being afraid. And I feel like I am one of those people who is always like, you guys call me out for it, but sorry, I have a dumb question. I was like say it like just a heads up. I'm coming in with a dumb question here,
Yeah.
and I feel like that like lightens it. But yeah, don't be afraid to ask a dumb question if you're not understanding something. It's all about learning.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I took it.
Yeah,
here.
and even from like a leadership perspective, like all of a sudden you become a leader, and then you kind of get this in your head, like now you have to know everything, and you have to have all the answers, and you have to have all the solutions and stuff. So it's like, no, like you can continue being a dummy, continue to do the things that got you here, continue, and they talk about like, you don't want to be in the smartest person. If you're always the smartest person in the room, like you're in the wrong room and you're not. But yeah, continue to ask questions like what's the worst that's going to happen.
Heck yeah. Next one here is rejection. So the first thing I think of, obviously, in this one is real estate. We deal with a lot of rejection. I think it's important for people to not take it personally. Mm-hmm. Any type of rejection. Like one thing that I've learned in real estate is when someone says no, it probably just means not yet. Mm-hmm. Or, maybe it won't work for this person, but that doesn't mean it can't work for someone else. So don't just give up if one person tells you no.
Or if they give you some kind of an objection, it's not a no. Like if they if it was a no, then they just say no, and that would be the end of the conversation. But if it's usually an opening. But yeah, but just I've given that example before, because again, like you go through good times, you go through bad times, you go through whatever. But again, it goes maybe back to being clear on your why or whatever. But like I envision myself as like Michael Myers, right? Like he's like, or any like a horror, like a character in a horror movie that keeps dying but keeps coming back. You know what I mean? Like he's dead like this on the ground. And all of a sudden he's like, oh no!
Camera Josh,
dead. Oh no, oh, coming back, baby, coming back. But like. So like there's rejection of like this one person said no to me, but then rejecting failure in general. Like, oh, times are tough, you gonna quit? It's like, no, because I'm stupid. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just gonna keep coming. There's a funny line in the movie Casino where the guy, like, he's a gangster and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna come back here, probably come to the bank nice and early tomorrow, and I'm gonna come get my money. And if you don't give it to me, I'm gonna crack your skull. And then he goes, and by the time I'm getting out of jail, you're probably getting out of your coma. And I'm going to come back and I'm going to do it again because I'm stupid. But that whole thing, like, oh, just going to keep coming. Yep. And so, yeah, rejecting failure. Be like, no, I'm just going to keep coming until. And then the last one is like success leaves clues. You want to build a successful business. You want to you want to, find the person living the lifestyle that you want and then model how they got there. So again, real estate is a great example. Like how to become a successful real estate agent, how to create a team, how to do this, you want to be really good at jiu-jitsu. Well, then study under a black belt because they know how to do it. You want, or insert whatever you want to be better at.
People are so worried about copying, but that's all we do. In real estate,
very creative.
Oh, they
very
they did that. That's cool. We're totally gonna rip that off.
Yeah, there's a they call it R&D, rip off and duplicate.
Yeah,
which is
I mean, there's no shame in it. Like people have done what you are trying to do. Most likely, there's a lot of people on this earth. Yeah. So somebody's probably done it. So figure out who that person is and see if you can either have a conversation with them or if they wrote a book that you can read or how you can copy what they've already done. Why make it harder on yourself if you don't need to?
YouTube? Ever heard of YouTube?
Ever heard of it?
Good place to
like
start.
And subscribe to 2 cents.
Smash that noti bell. But no, it's a real thing. Like I would imagine most successful people would be, like honored or happy to share with you what they know. Right?
Yeah. No. Oh, I can you think of a time where somebody who's done something successful be like, whoa, don't try to copy me. Like, I feel like it's almost exactly like you said. Like it would be an honor to that person, in my opinion.
Yeah. And then, because that's what people love to talk about. Because again, like we were talking about earlier, like at your deathbed, like nobody cares how much money you have. Or like if you read somebody's memoir, like Phil Knight, the owner of Nike, like his whole book gets up to him becoming like a multi-billionaire. And then the book's over. Like there's nothing left. Like It's not like, hey, and then I bought a yacht and then I did
Yep.
this and then I was really happy.
Yeah.
It was like all about the journey and the ups and downs and like scratching and clawing and
Yep.
to be successful. And then he wants to share that with people, you know.
Boom.
But that's what
It's a
people
bigger
like to talk
purpose. It's a bigger purpose in life.
about. Yeah, buddy. But yeah, let's go.
Nobody's purpose in life is to make a bunch of money and then just hide away and never talk to anyone again.
Or maybe
Be pretty unhappy.
maybe they
life.
do. They just don't write books about it. And I don't know.
I guess, yeah. I guess if that's what they're doing, we would never know about it.
But even
So
like-
I take that back.
But even anybody like Matthew McConaughey is now getting into the like personal growth
Yep.
space. Like he was just on Ed Milet's podcast. He's
Yep.
doing a free webinar with Tony Robbins on Monday, actually. But that's where you get the drive, like, because you get into that. I'll be happy when. I'll be happy when I
Yep.
make $100,000. I'll be happy when my net worth is $1 million. I'll be happy when whatever. But then guess what? Now you're 50 and be like, I would love to be 30 again, or
Yep.
I would love to be I would love to have little kids again, driving me freaking nuts, you know. So, yeah. But anyway, yeah, good book. It's it's an easy read, easy listen, a good way to just kind of, and again, there's 64 of these bad boys, so there's 63, so plenty to,
This is part 1 of 20.
64 divided by 5. So, anyway,
Turn your mic on if you're going to talk, Dustin.
tech guy.
Big numbers guy, big stat guy, wants to talk about stats and numbers all day long until showtime comes.
Hey, he picks and chooses when he's ready to pipe up, you know, and that's fine. We respect that. We're grateful for you, pal.
Shout out, Dustin.
Shout
Shout
out,
out
Dustin.
to everyone listening.
Hey.
We love you.
Let's go. Success Principles, How to Get From Where You Are to Where You Want to Be by Jack Canfield. Go check it out.
Watch for deer.
Shake a bug.
Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more content like this. If you have any suggestions for us, make sure to leave them in the comments. Until next time, watch for deer, shake your bug.